Welcome to iReadIt. In today's video, some of the cringiest stories of r/entitled parents. Hope you enjoy. Lady at McDonald's doesn't understand how fast food restaurants work. A little backstory. I used to work at McDonald's when I was a teenager, and I'm also deaf, but I read lips. I developed bacterial meningitis and became fully deaf at the age of 12. I can still speak since I learned to speak before I became deaf, and most of the customers I got there were very understanding, except one. I was working front counter that day, as I usually did, so I was basically in charge of inside customers. This was the easiest position for me, as I could see the customers and read their lips. A middle-aged lady and her 9 to 10-year-old son walk in, and I say, "Hi, welcome to McDonald's," while signing in at the same time. She doesn't look up and is looking down at her phone, so I can't see her lips and I can't understand what she's saying. So I explain, "Excuse me, ma'am, I'm deaf and I read lips. Can you look up for me?" She rolls her eyes and I clearly see her saying, "Why would they let a retard work the front counter?" I am appalled by her behavior, but just try to pretend like I didn't see it. I smile and say, "What can I get started for you today?" She starts to patronize me by speaking very slowly, which, fun fact, actually makes it 1,000 times harder to understand what you're saying. "I, pause, want, pause, a, pause, diet, pause, Coke." "Okay, is that all?" "And a Happy Meal toy." Now, all of her drinks are $1, no matter the size, but you have to pay for a Happy Meal toy. We don't just give them out for free. I ring her up and she's shocked. She demands to know why I'm discriminating against her son and forcing them to pay for a Happy Meal toy. I really don't want to cause any trouble, and I wish I could say I told her where she could shove it, but I ended up just giving her the toy for free. I thought I had avoided conflict, but oh boy was I wrong. I told her the total was $1.06, and after she paid, I handed her a large cup and motioned for the guy behind her to move forward. She waves a hand in my face and points to the drink cup. "Yes, ma'am." "You never got me my drink." Now, I just thought she didn't see the machines behind her, so I pointed to the drink machine and said, "Oh, there's a drink station behind you where you can fill up your drink." I kid you not, she word for word said, "That's your job. Do I look like I work for McDonald's?" My jaw hit the freaking floor. I had never had someone be so rude in my entire life. I ended up telling her that when you come inside, you fill up your own drinks because of sanitary reasons. But when she kept on pushing at me, I ended up just using our drive-through drink machine to give her the Diet Coke. While I'm making the drink, my coworker taps me on the shoulder, and this is the reason that this is in the EP tag. I see her son making fun of me to his mom by pretending to sign and just in general being a jackass. His mom didn't punish him or tell him off, instead she encouraged him and started to make fun of me with him. I went to the back and ended up bawling my eyes out. I felt incredibly embarrassed and like I had made a fool of myself by having a disability. I turned in my 2 weeks notice about a week later and haven't worked in fast food since. To everyone reading this, please be kind to people, especially your fast food workers. It's a tough job even if you don't have any disability. And if you see people who have disabilities working and trying to make a living, please be patient and help us out by just letting us do our thing and make us feel welcome. Thank you. Now, this story made me really angry. How in the world can you bully someone who has a disability? What the hell is wrong with your brain? You probably don't have one. That's what's wrong with it. OP, whom I wish all the luck in the world, shouldn't have posted this in Entitled Parents, since this clearly belongs into the "I am a total piece of shit" subreddit. God damn that woman. EM once scarred veteran off of a public beach. So this happened about 3 months ago when me, my mom, and her brother, my uncle, who's a veteran that spent time fighting in the Gulf War and the Falklands, picking up some nasty burn and bullet scars, went to a beach in Norfolk, England. We were relaxing on some rocks at a rock pool area when my uncle, who's had his shirt off the entire time, his scars in full view, is approached by an entitled mother and her daughter. Here's how it went down.
"Excuse me, young man," talking to me, "can you go somewhere else?
I'm sorry, what? I want you to go somewhere else. That man you're with is upsetting my daughter. Her daughter has run over to some other children a little bit away, playing in the rock pool. She doesn't seem very upset, pointing over to her. Now, apparently that was some kind of soul-shattering insult to her, because she freaking explodes screaming things like, "You don't know my daughter," and "Get that freaking freak off of this beach!" My uncle, who up to now heard none of this, turns his head and begins marching up to her. "Uncle, what did you just call me?" in a calm yet threatening tone. EM, who clearly misjudged the size of him from far away, "You disgusting man, either cover your scars or go elsewhere." By now, the beachgoers have stopped what they were doing and either began watching this unfold or tried to get her to stop screaming and swearing near the children. "Uncle, listen lady, I'm trying to enjoy my day. If you don't like my scars, which I got fighting for my country, you leave. This is a public beach and I'm allowed to be here." She tries to get a local Bobby, a policeman, to get him off the beach, which he tells her my uncle can stay. This drives her to say that she saw him doing drugs in front of the public. Now me, Mom, my uncle, and all the onlookers are pissed and quickly prove her wrong, and she is placed under arrest for false accusations. We go back to relaxing, and the daughter's dad, who wasn't seen for this entire exchange, took her home. Then we got ice cream. My bra offended an entitled mom in my own room. Note that half my family is Italian and the other half isn't. On the Italian side, which the EM is from, hitting other people's kids is pretty standard, but on the other one, we will deck a bitch, so no one does it anymore. Some backstory in this situation. I was about 16 at the time and living with my grandparents. They were having a little get-together, but the guests were all told to stay out of my room because I wasn't feeling well at all, plus the cat was in there, and with people going in and out of the house, we didn't want him to escape. There was even a sign on the door. It read, "Please do not disturb, cat inside." Since I was sick, my body wasn't holding its temperature right, so I was in a sports bra and shorts, but my robe was right next to me. Laying back on my bed, just trying to get a little bit of homework done before I passed out again. I told my grandma to bring some food in when it was ready, and that was that. I heard a little knock on the door. It was super light, so I thought maybe it was my grandma bringing me something to eat, not wanting to wake me up. I throw the robe on and go, "Yeah, come in." Next thing I know, it's a little gremlin coming in, chocolate all over his face and hands. Of course, he walked right in and started touching the stuff, not closing the door. Luckily, I had grabbed the cat because grandma is a slow walker. "Wow, cool room," entitled kid says, and tried to pick up one of my notebooks, one that was really special to me. I took it off the table before he could get fudge on it. "I'm sorry, bud, but you gotta go back to your mama. You're not supposed to be in here. I'm sick." The kid ignored me, still touching the stuff. "I'm bored though, and you have cool stuff. I got my shots last night." I shake my head and point to the door. It's rude to go into someone's room when they say no. "Please go play out there with the other kids." "I'm sick," I said firmly this time, and he whines but leaves, slamming my door. I shake my head and go to my desk, where all my really fragile art supplies are, clearing a spot for me to eat in a couple of minutes. I start getting really hot, so I take the robe off. Next thing I know, my door flies open and I barely manage to grab my cat. The EM stood there, red-faced and fuming. "My son said you spanked him." I didn't even touch him once. It should also be known that this EM is known in the family for having a habit of swatting kids if they step out of line, something my mom had corrected with threats more than once while I was growing up, usually ending in her calling me spoiled. She then stopped and looked at me, gasping and covering her eyes as if she's never seen another woman not fully clothed before. "Young lady, that is so indecent. There are children in this house. Put on clothes." I stare at her, dumbfounded, and shake my head. "Look, EM, I never hit your kid. I would never do that. And I'm sick. He shouldn't be coming in here, and neither should you." What followed was her going on for about 5 minutes or so about how I was the one in the wrong and blah blah. My stomach is starting to churn a little bit from the stress. I have a stress disorder. and being sick, I know I'm not going to keep it down for long. I tell her she has to leave now. I'm sick, the cat is scratching the crap out of my boobs at that point, being as I was indecent and trying to keep him from escaping, and she had no right to be there in the first place. She grabbed me and, as if I was like 6, started trying to spank me, even managing to get my shorts down. This jerk actually smacked my butt. So I did what most people would do. I screamed for my grandfather. "Grandpa, EM is hitting me!" While I slam her back, her hip slams into my bed frame and I turn and run into the hallway, slamming and holding the door closed behind me while she wails like a banshee. Now I am indecent in front of guests, but also pretty important, they can all see the like 6 or 7 really bright red marks that are on my thighs and butt. My grandpa was never one to curse profusely, but seeing his half-naked granddaughter with obvious marks from an assault standing in the hallway, trying not to have a panic attack, he lost it. He called her so many things I lost count. A few others came into the room screaming at her as well. I'm crying at that point, not because she hurt me, but because I was humiliated, trying to just get back into my room and hide from the world forever. Little did I know it got worse. She started yelling, saying my grandparents spoiled me and that I hit her kid first. By this point, her own husband was yelling, "No, she didn't," right in her face, but she didn't care. She took my desk and floored everything on it, breaking a lot of projects I worked really hard on, and all my supplies spilled everywhere, all into the carpet and everything. She was quickly kicked from the house. Her son admitted to lying, but he felt really bad for what happened. He was crying, hugging me, saying he was super sorry, and basically being as apologetic as a kid really gets. We never talked to her after that, except to get the money for my stuff. She refused, but my mom told her she would file charges for sexual assault of a minor since she pulled my pants down in order to hit me. She would lose her kids if we won the case, which she did a year later anyway, and they live with their much better father, so she gave me roughly $500 out of court, and I got to call her a jerk to her face. Entitled Mom joins our Skype call after we kill our son repeatedly in Minecraft. I was playing on a Minecraft server with 5 friends at the time this happened, and this new kid joined our game and our Skype call. He kept breaking our builds and demanding we give him stuff. We originally decided to ban him, but we wanted to have some fun, so we kept killing him. The Skype call was basically 6 guys laughing and a little kid screaming, calling us hackers. We were talking on Skype when EM called. "Let my son play on the server, you ungrateful jerks!" "No," we all said at the same time. "My husband is a lawyer, and he will sue you, and I will call the police for harassment." "Shut up, lady." "Don't you talk to me like that. My son deserves all your items more than all of you combined." "Screw off, woman." "You are not allowed to freaking swear. Only adults are allowed to use that kind of language." One of us makes a Christian Minecraft server meme and she gets really pissed. "How dare you insult my religion? You are all going to hell." "Alright, where do you live?" We start making up addresses like 69 Wheat Street and 420 Screw Off Avenue. "That's it, I'm leaving." About time. She left and blocked us. Me and my friends still joke about that incident. Now, this isn't the first time I read this kind of a story. Can someone explain to me since when parents actually join their kids in games? When I was a kid, all my parents did when they saw me in front of the PlayStation or something was like roll their eyes or tell me how much I wasted my time. The good old days. Entitled Parent doesn't know how free samples work. I'm a full-time student at a state university. To make extra money, I take classes in the afternoon and work mornings in a donut shop near my house. A few days ago, my manager and I were getting ready to open shop. I get there at around 5 a.m. and the store opens to the public at 5:30, so there's a solid 30 minutes of prep work, brewing coffee, organizing displays, etc. However, we typically don't have customers until about 6 AM, which gives us a bit of a window to finish up the less important of our opening tasks, such as, hint hint, preparing and setting out samples. For our samples, we usually take one of our flavor of the day donuts, the special flavor that we only have on that particular day of the week, cut it into bite-sized chunks, and put them on a sample tray on the counter for customers to try. I'm getting ready to do just that when a woman, late 20s, maybe early 30s, and her child, 5 or 6, walk into the store at about 5:35. Me and my manager share a quick look of mild surprise, as it is a bit unusual to see someone in here so early, especially with a child. To put it into perspective, typically the only people here this early are the occasional firemen, police officers, teachers, etc. Still, no biggie. Since I was already in the middle of something, my manager goes to greet them and take their order, and I get back to getting the samples ready. I take out a donut and set it on a display plate, only to realize I forgot a knife. EP, who has been texting since she walked in and shows no sign of looking up, even to place her order, proceeds to get 9 dozen donuts, an order that by all means should have been called in ahead of time, and requires 3 of her biggest boxes. Hearing this, I move the display tray to the side of the counter, and behind the boxes of tissue paper we use to grab the donuts, as I don't want to get it in the way of my manager while she boxes up the order. I then go back and grab a knife from the kitchen, a trip that took 15 seconds max, only to return to see the sample plate is empty. Confused, I look at the open boxes to see if perhaps my manager grabbed it while filling the order. Considering that the flavor of the day was red velvet, it was very easy to tell it wasn't there. I then turned to look over the counter, wondering if it had somehow been knocked on the floor. That's when I noticed EP's child sitting in one of the armchairs in the corner of the eating area with what is, undoubtedly, the missing sample donut. Now, this probably pissed me off more than it should have. Hell, it still does. Since I've worked there a while, I've seen more than my fair share of entitled parents or large groups take more than one or even all of the samples for themselves, pretending they're being sneaky or just not caring. It really grinds my gears. But this was a level of blatant jackassery that I couldn't even fathom. My manager, who is now taping up the boxes, must have noticed that I stopped moving. She glances at me, notices my now empty sample plate, then follows my gaze to the child in the corner. She blinks a couple of times, clearly just as baffled as I was, and then turns to EP. Excuse me, ma'am, did you take the donut that was sitting on this plate? EP, still taking a second before finally bothering to look up from her phone. Yeah, why? Manager, ma'am, that was an entire donut. EP, blinking at us with the worst expression of fake ignorance I've ever seen. What? It was on a sample tray. I thought it was a free sample. Manager, clearly annoyed. Ma'am, taking that sample required you to reach over the counter, take an entire donut from an unlabeled tray, and give it to your child while our backs were turned. I hardly think that situation implies typical sample rules. EP, annoyed and obviously unapologetic. Well, it's your own fault for leaving it there unattended. If you don't want people thinking it's a free sample, you shouldn't have left it on that tray. At this point, it's pretty clear that we aren't going to get anywhere productive with this, and frankly, one donut isn't worth starting a ruckus over. I ring her up while my manager brings the boxes over, and the total is pretty hefty, well over $100 since she got some drinks as well. Now, on our cash registers, you have to press a subtotal button before it will display the amount owed on the customer's side of the counter. Additionally, the credit card receipts aren't itemized, and only display the total amount paid, not each individual item. We typically only print itemized receipts on request for card purchases. Wouldn't you know, this lady didn't ask for an itemized receipt. So it would have been very easy for the price of, say, one measly donut to have found its way onto the total without anyone ever knowing. Very easy indeed. That's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and if you liked it, as usual, please tune in tomorrow for a brand new episode of iReadIt. Until then, see ya!